Well, hey, thank you, Coach, so much for being willing to do this interview. And we're here at ManUp Pittsburgh for the 7th year, which is incredible here at Victory Family Church, put on by Urban Impact. And you've been partnering with this since the beginning. And so I'm just curious, why are you still involved and why are you so passionate about this conference?
It was born out of my desire to impact more kids, to touch more kids. This is the time of year where I get a moment or two to kind of do some things. And I used to do a free football camp for kids at Brashear High School. I wanted to bring a football instructional environment to some kids that maybe were less fortunate and give them those camp opportunities that you see a lot of, that cost a lot of money and so forth. And so I put together a team to kind of do those things. I partnered with really Urban Impact because I knew that they were working with some kids, and Urban Impact would come to my camp in busloads of these kids, and really just got to really admire what Pastor Ed and his group's doing in the lives of these kids. And I was thinking about ways that I could increase my interaction or impact on them. And really it just born out of conversations with Pastor Glover about, how we could do that. And really how you do that is not enough of us to go around to get to kids. So we wanted to start to challenge and encourage fathers to be the best fathers, husbands and fathers, godly fathers that they can be, not only for theirs, but the ones that they come in contact with, the ones in their communities, and to be bold and maybe search out opportunities to provide those relationships for kids that are less fortunate. So, in an effort to touch more kids, we came to the understanding that maybe encouraging and touching people that have an opportunity to be impactful to kids might be the venue or the way for us to go.
Yeah, and thank you so much for using your platform for that. It's been amazing to watch what God's done in the past 7 years.
Man, it's awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah. One thing I love about you is just your humility and willingness to learn and get better. Every year you say here, man, I just come here to learn how to be a better dad. So I'm just curious, over the last year, you have teenagers. How have you grown as a dad over the past year?
Boys are we all have talents and blessings, and boys are easy for me. It just is. My daughter is a challenge, and she's a great kid, but just those interactions, being what she needs me to be, being firm and fatherly with her. I got a soft spot for her, and she knows it. I grew up with a brother. I grew up, I grew up in a large area around cousins. It was 21 of us. My mom has 6 brothers and 6 sisters. Okay, out of 21 cousins, and nieces and nephews and so forth, 18 males, 3 females. So I got the male interaction down. My 13-year-old daughter is very challenging, and I'm learning every day.
I know one reason you're passionate about the fatherlessness issue is because you were impacted by fatherlessness. And, you've shared your story on here before where you were impacted by men like Pooh Johnson, your stepfather, your grandfather. I think, can you talk to just anyone who's been impacted by fatherlessness? Because I don't think it just impacts you when you're young. I know adults that are still dealing with the wounds of fatherlessness in their life. What advice would you tell to someone who has a fatherless wound in their life?
To acknowledge it. And not only the challenges that it presented in your upbringing, but also the challenges that it could present to you in parenting. I think I increasingly become aware of maybe some of the things that I lacked in an effort to parent my kids, and it creates obstacles and hurdles because I'm not modeling behavior, father-child behavior that I was able to experience. So it's somewhat mystical. It's somewhat abstract. And that's something to be overcome. It's something to be acknowledged. And I think acknowledgement is the first step of minimizing the potential negative impact of it, and to be conscious of the maybe challenges that it presents. I'm often in awe of the security that my kids display. And I'm aware of the security that maybe I lacked in watching them. In terms of some of the decisions that were very gray for me are extremely black and white for them. They have strength that I didn't have in terms of security and decision making. And so I'm continually kind of learning, I think we all are if we think critically about it. Those of us that had fatherlessness in our life, it is something that we continually are faced with and have to find ways to overcome or minimize.
Yeah. And I'm curious, man, that's awesome to hear that your kids are secure, and they're clearly secure because they have great parents in their life. You're also an intense guy yourself. You go hard, and you're coach of the Steelers, which is a huge responsibility. I'm just curious, what do you and your wife do intentionally to make sure that you don't lose focus on your family while on such a huge responsibility as coaching the Steelers?
You know, it's just simply what I do is not who I am. And my wife's the best at that. She is so unimpressed by my employment. You know what I mean? She always has been, though, man. That's probably why she's my wife, you know. She was a girl at college that was unimpressed by my athletic abilities, you know. She's always been really good at keeping me grounded in things of that nature. It is one of her strengths, and I gotta give her the credit in terms of piloting us, in terms of maintaining a proper balance and focus in terms of what's really important in our lives.
Yeah, I want to transition a little bit into leadership, and just as I asked you how you grew as a dad in the last year, you now have another year of leadership under your belt, and I'm just curious, what have you learned and how have you grown as a leader in the last year?
You know, it's funny. I acknowledge that I'm in a process of continual growth, but in the way that I analyze the decisions, the myriad of decisions that I have to make, and the things that you can describe as leadership in terms of my job, to express that growth, to quantify it in a setting such as this, it's just really not enough time. I'm getting better in a lot of ways. The use of technology, the proper use of technology in my job, and I think we all are faced with those challenges, man, when we're in a job for an extended period of time. How the job changes based on information. The speed in which you have information, the amount of information that you have, the amount of information and the speed of the information and the speed in which decisions need to be made on my job are very different than they were 13 years ago when I got this opportunity. That's just one of the many ways that I'm hopefully getting better all the time. And I just want to pick one thing out to kind of put it in a snapshot. Analytics, is something that's fast evolving in our business. Yeah. But man, I got a bunch of irons in the fire. Yeah. And man, I'm trying to get better in all of them. So I thought that'd be a good example to kind of share one aspect of it.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. You talked about the speed. I've noticed in leadership, it seems that leadership comes with so much pressure and so much, oftentimes, painful seasons that are difficult to navigate. And I'm just curious, as a leader, how do you even process that with all the pressure from the public to the team to the performance? How do you deal with pain and pressure as a leader, and how have you learned to manage that better now than maybe you did when you started?
You know, I really think it's clarity born out of experience. To put it in layperson's terms, I better come to the right answer as quickly as I can. But the first part of that is I better come to the right answer. So you can't let outside forces and pressures and so forth put you on the clock where you come to the wrong answer. I gotta have the right answer, and I need to come to the right answer as quickly as possible. So speed is an essence of it, but speed is not the deciding factor. It doesn't trump everything. First things first, I better make good decisions. And then after I get in that mode of making the good and proper decisions, I better do so as quickly as I can. I always try to maintain that perspective. I can't let outside forces accelerate the process by which I come to decisions, because if you come to the wrong decision, the speed in which you come to it is irrelevant.
And just as we start to wrap up, is there anything else you'd want to leave leaders with today? I always like asking that.
You know, one of my missions for 2019, and it's probably, I'm so passionate about sport because it's always been a teach tool for me. It just is. I could relate my experiences in sport to life and learn and grow. One of the challenges that I see in sport these days is, your word means less. And I think those of us that are in the sporting world, those of us that wear the moniker of coach at any level, we have an opportunity to combat that with the young people that we work with. We combat that first and foremost by, living out the things that we say and making sure that we're true to our word. And then we challenge them and hold them accountable to be true to their word. My oldest son has gone through the recruiting process. He was a senior. He just graduated from high school, and he was recruited to play football in college, and to kind of be a part of that process and to watch kids commit and then decommit to schools and open their recruiting back up. And it was just one of those things that really has kind of struck me like a lightning bolt. I told my son early in his process that if you make a commitment to a university, then your recruiting process is over. That's where we're going. It doesn't matter how attractive the next pursuer is, or however they dress it up. Your word means something, son. When you make a commitment to a university, that's what it is. To watch how the word commitment is thrown around in today's recruiting world, where kids commit and decommit, universities offer scholarships but then pull it back, and this shuffling is really saddening, to be quite honest with you. And it's kind of my mission, based on my exposure to that in the last year, to really talk about being true to your word, and particularly those of us in athletics. It's a shame, but I'm watching athletics be a negative vehicle. And usually athletics is such a positive vehicle for good moral decision making and things of that nature. That's something that I'm advocating in 2019.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your impact on men and fathers in our city, and just appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.